Abraham Maslow famously said, "What a man can be, he must be." This concept lies at the heart of his pyramid of needs, where survival is only the beginning. And as we climb higher towards self-actualization, the process itself becomes the goal, a journey of growth, creativity, and purpose. The process, eh? We often hear the phrase love the process, but how does it play into self-actualization? What does it truly mean? And why should it matter to us?
Welcome to the Meaningful Shit Show with your host, Vincent. In a world full of selfishness, blaming, and scapegoating, Vincent aims to inspire inner work with deep topics and insights on emotion regulation, personal development, psychology, philosophy, and the trauma growth healing process.
Welcome to the Meaningful Shit Show. I'm Vincent, your host. In the introduction, I talked about Maslow and his pyramid of needs. I talked about loving the process, and this is really what this episode is going to be about. We're not going to talk much about the base layer of the pyramid, the survival skills. I'm not going to go in that much detail on Maslow's pyramid of needs. I assume that it's known by many of you. But to summarize it really quickly, it's a model that a psychologist that Maslow created to give an overview of what our needs as humans are, and that they're built up with from a base which contains the basic survival needs. Think shelter, food, water, community, safety, and it climbs up to less basic needs, I would say. Like at one point you have a need for belonging. You can see that it's more important to have a roof over your head, and that once you have a roof over your head and it's safe and it's consistent, then you start caring about a community, or you start caring about belonging, that you have connection with some humans around you. Maybe family comes there as well. You keep climbing, and all the way in the peak of the pyramid, there's something called self-actualization. And self-actualization, contrary to shelter, is not really a goal by itself. It's the process of discovering yourself. And that's different for every human. You would see that it doesn't say in the peak of the pyramid, be a billionaire, or have lots of sex, or any of those things. That's like the lower level stuff that doesn't lead to the actual deepest fulfillment. Of course, this is a model. It's different for different people, but of course, there's a lot of thought that went into that, and I think about life in context of that, and I find it really interesting that different problems exist at different levels of the pyramid. What I would say is at the lower level of the pyramid, like I call it like sort of the lesser goals. So let's say that like in society today, it means my generation, we are really obsessed with like the goals and results, and oftentimes these are like the goals and the results in the base layer of the pyramid. So we chase promotions, degrees, fitness milestones, like they're the ultimate benchmarks of success, often overlooking the journey, personal growth involved. We're just interested in the medal. I think it's a very important substation in life to go through. I think that in your 20s, maybe in your teens, in your 20s, you buy into this mindset. You want stuff, and then you want to be able to buy stuff, or be successful, or like sleep with people, or like however whatever is your record, be famous, like these kind of like things. So it's a lot about being recognized by the external environment to to be a certain thing, or having your skills validated by someone paying you. And it's important because as we set these goals and we crush them, we gain more self-confidence. And at first, like I said, the goals are often materialistic. They're pushed to us by family and society. Just graduate with a certain CPA, get a car, finish university, get a job, get a positive performance review, date around, find a good man or woman, move abroad, buy a home in a good neighborhood, have children, get your children into a good school, go on a trip around the world, travel your ass off. All these things I would say are just good, right? However, achieving independence at this stage is crucial because it lays the foundation for making decisions that are truly aligned with your personal values. All these things don't really have to do that much with your personal values. Family, having children, moving abroad, sure. Like there's like flavors in that. It might be much more important to be close to your community. So yeah, it's sprinkled in there, but by and large, these are just like very generic goals. So these are imposed by societal norms or external expectation from parents or your community. If you're in your 20s, do that. Yes, I fully recommend that, to play that game and to be immersed by that. Play the corporate game like it actually means something. Of course, it doesn't really mean something. See my episode about nihilism. Nothing really means something unless you imbibe it with that property. But fall in love with it, with the, just the chasing of independence, of wealth. Expose yourself to massive experience so you get to see what you like and what you don't like. Say yes to lots of things. You need to say yes to some things first before you can say no to it. For a lot of it, it's possible that we live our entire life this way. So our goals and the things that we're doing, the way that we spend our time, it's just an endless stream of conventional stuff without exploring what truly matters to you, you as a person, you as a unique individual. I would say it's an endless stream of lesser goals. And the reason I call them lesser goals is because they're mundane, they're at the base of the pyramid. Maybe the first, the second, or the third, or something like that, which is important. Like, I don't want to poo-poo it because having a car, a spouse, a dog, kids, a house, a six-figure job is better than just having no responsibilities, being blacked out in a gutter with a needle in your arm. Yes, it's absolutely like better. I would say it's better from a societal point of view and for the average person as well. Like it's better to have these things. So, but I also think you still didn't get to the most juicy parts of life. And that's hard because actually to excel in these things, to actually be able to engage in self-actualization, you have to do something pretty radical, which is like you have to escape the well of gravity of your society and your environment, because the average bear does not self-actualize. And as people get older, it starts to happen more. Like people, as they get into their 50s and 60s, generally achieve a little bit more financial freedom, or more they match their expenses and their income or something like that, so they get more time, so they can do more things like spending time with their grandkids and stuff like that. But it like all of these things in life, it's kind of a race. If you spend your 20s, 30s, and 40s doing like these base necessities, your time's going to run out to work on the really truly juicy parts of life, the things that really make life worth living. These base pyramids, they're important. They're important, like eating and going to the bathroom and stuff like that. You need them to survive, but there's nothing unique about it. There's nothing inherently fulfilling about that. What I found interesting about these lesser goals, lower in the pyramid, these goals have an incredible high ROI. And I apologize, I come from a business background, so business bullshit term, return on investment, right? So you invest in something and you get something back. So the focus in a way is on returns. And of course, society is made in such a way that there is incentives that are present, that if you invest in things that are relatively normal and standard, that you will get return on that, right? If you go to college and you choose a subject or a major that has good job prospects, what society gives you back for your investment is a job with good income. At least that's the promise. That's not automatic, of course, or guaranteed. The lower in the pyramid you are, the more palpable these returns are, and generally how lower the investment is. So base things as having shelter. Society provides a lot of mechanisms for you to not be living on the street. You don't have to have a fancy six-figure income career in order to just have a roof over your head. It might not be fancy, it might not be in a nice neighborhood, it might not, blah blah blah, etc., etc. But society provides in that. The same thing of like getting clean drinking water, to getting acceptable food. Like these things, you don't have to invest a ton to get the returns. And it's not just that the investment is low, it's also made very easy by your environment. We humans are social creatures. So when we're engaging in a process like that, we look at our neighbor. What is our neighbor doing? How can I mimic that? Can I do it something better, smarter, or whatever than them? So there's also, this is the gravity well. Like a gravity well can pull you up as you're beginning life or you're struggling to get your survival needs met. There is a gravity well society that pulls you up if you're like under the gravity well. I guess that the gravity you have to like visualize in a way. Generally gravity pulls you down. In this case, what I'm using as an analogy is a gravity well, like sort of like in the middle, and if you're under it, like it pulls you up, it pulls you like up higher. And of course, if you start escaping the gravity well, you get like higher than the gravity well, it starts like trying to pull you down. So it's this great normalizer. Think it about it that way. Like society, to a certain extent, tries to make like sort of the average achievable for most. Some people are still going to be like, below, under the poverty line, etc., etc. And some people are going to be like way above, but there is like sort of a normalizing effect in society. Not as much as there should be, etc., etc. Let's not get into politics, but that's the idea. So there's the investment, the work itself. It's the external validation that you get, like your parents rooting you on for doing something like that, or things like health or environmentally conscious, so that you know that it's like good for you, right? Just the things that your parents want you to do. But these things are less about what this episode is about, because you don't really need to love the process to get some of these things done, I think. I think the carrot, the reward of having a roof over your head, is high enough to deal with, even if your mindset around the process is not good. You might think it sucks to like schlep to whatever job you need to do in order to get your income, to get the roof over your head. But by and large, you'll just do it. You'll get it done even if you don't love the process, even if you're bitching and moaning and you think that society is unfair and blah 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 blah. So and from one perspective, the reward is there, and also the stick is pretty big. Like the moment that you don't do it, you're going to end up on the street. You're going to be hungry, and we are surviving creatures, survival creatures. We have, billions of years of evolution have guided us into the direction of, at one point we start being cold, hungry, all of these lower level processes kick in, and we will start doing whatever is required to get comfortable. That's what it is to to be a human, to be in this body, right? So you don't really need to be that cerebrally skilled to do some of these things. Society helps you, your biology helps you, like there's many things that are helping you to do that. What I encountered is that the true interesting things are not these obvious top priorities, right? The things that you do beside your survival priorities, higher on the pyramid. Now, those are really interesting and hard, because when you get to that level, the gravity well of society actually starts pulling you down. Your friends start pulling you down. Like, what are you doing? Like, come back to us. Like, just come hang out and drink at the bar. Like, why are you going to like work out, or like study, or study beyond the studying you've already done. Like especially later in life, when you've achieved some of these goals, you have your house, your six-figure job. Like maybe you are conventionally successful, right? But not fulfilled necessarily, because a job is like, it's partially fulfilling, but not ultimately fulfilling. These things are the easiest to drop. Think about your health. You can do a ton of expected things that your family and society expect you from it, while ignoring your health, like neglecting your health, really. How many people that you work with are overweight or obese even, or they're abusing substances? Like you can live tens tens of you can live your entire life in an unhealthy way. Sure, you're going to die a little bit earlier than that, but you can, you can get pretty pretty old these days with like modern evidence-based medicine that just gives you a pill to resolve some of these things. It's still going to take time of your life, but so these choices profoundly impact overall life satisfaction, influencing like your energy levels, your mood, and even longevity. These beyond basics, basically. For example, taking proper care of your nutrition and your health, that can make such a difference in your energy levels and mood, right? And if you don't do that, you'll still get through life. Maybe it's a pretty bleak way. You have pretty bleak perspective on life, and you're depressed then. But generally, you still get your job done. You still get some income. You still are able to punch in, punch out, and then just like lie on the couch depressed eating Cheetos. Like it's you can still get through that. But your creative passions, that's something else. Engaging with them provides a sense of fulfillment, personal identity, joy, allowing you to explore and express your individuality. For example, painting, writing, or playing a musical instrument can offer a unique way to channel emotions and connect with your inner self, to self-actualize. How many people do you know, though, that wax philosophically about getting in shape or playing their instrument or truly doing what they want, and they postpone it until the next life? Sometimes even say that, "Oh, I'll do that in my next life," and they then don't do it because it's easy to not do it. Like if you look around it, it's like if you're not engaging with your passion, it's not that the guy on the street or your friend or your boss is like gonna shake you and be like, go chase that down. It's not gonna happen because your boss is gonna be like, okay, are you like, are you performing the way that you're performing? Okay, good. Not, I don't give a fuck if you if you chase your passions. I'm not paying you for that. And oftentimes your friends don't really like that, because the less that you're spending on things that are like appropriately selfish, the more that they can rely on you. They can you can drop them off at the airport, or just things like that. You can be useful for them, right? You can be useful for your smaller community, and not useful for the larger circle of concern, right? And not that there's necessarily anything wrong with that. Like, I'm not saying that everybody needs to have a large circle of concern and help the entire world. It doesn't matter. Like, you can very well choose a small community and be intentional in that. That's fine. Like, there's no right and wrong here. Maybe someone that says these lofty things but then puts them off, and maybe that person is looking at you at the mirror in the mirror every morning, right? And I want to note again, like, this is not something to be ashamed about. This is how life is designed or structured, and how society is structured. You're set up to this. You're set up to be average, to be mediocre. That's that's what society gives us, which you can have many many um, philosophical conversations about that as well. It's like comparing that, how that would be in the Amazon, living in the Amazon or something, something like that. But it's not necessarily a bad thing, right? Because what society also gives us is you can climb higher individualistically than you could do by yourself. Just if you're alone in the Amazon forest, like I mean, good luck putting together an iPhone or something like that. So you do use like the society that creates that averageness, but the averageness, of course, is going up over time. You know, what was average? Like the fact that it's average to have a shower 100 years ago, a shower that was not common. I mean, I should fact check that. But where I think of specifically is I've been to India and visited like sort of the medieval palaces where you would see what the richest, the sultans, the sheiks, the whatever, what what kind of luxuries they had, and even like the toilets that they had, and it's ludicrous compared to what we have now. Like the average poor person has it better than like a sultan back in the days from a luxury perspective. I mean, don't take that completely literally because of course like it's not that you have all these different servants, but like I'm thinking of like these like creature comforts, like a soft bed, a shower, a refrigerator, like all these things. Like it's climbs. Anyways, I am I'm gonna keep going here. So, giving a personal example. So, for me, self actualization, like I am self actualizing right now. This is me self actualizing. But is it about being a successful podcaster or actor for that matter? No. No, it's about the continuous creative investment in like thinking about this stuff because like why do I talk about personal development topics? Is it just is it because I think that will make me the most money or that there's the biggest audience for it? No, it's because I fucking love this shit. It's helped me. It's helped me so much. Um, I owe my life to it in a way. Um, Gosh, I might at one point go more further down in my personal story, but I've had conversations with people that have gone through some of the same things that I went growing up, and he made the remark of like we are the ones that survive. Like there are many situations that we get we can grow up in where people don't live through that. There's hard shit. There's hard psychological shit. There's like you know. So doing this work, engaging in like finding purpose in life, although like you've had hardships, that saves lives is what I think. Now, of course, you can talk about is it good that we save lives because we have an overpopulation problem? I know. You can reflect on all of these things in a black pill kind of way and be sarcastic about it. And the fact that that even comes up to me talking about that knows that I know that way of thinking about things, but that is not the direction of contentment and happiness. So, me self-actualizing, thinking, writing, recording about the things that matter to me. It's it's not about necessarily being successful. I've talked about my workout routine as well. It's like I've been into working out for a long time now. It's very important for my mental health as well. I've done tons of cardio in the past. I've done marathons, ultras. I've paced people for 100 milers and 100Ks. Like wonderful stuff. Right now, I'm doing a lot of weightlifting, which is not as easy for me. Like I don't have a typical weightlifter build, I would say. So there's much more challenges about that. And I'm like working with people to make to do that, which is another form of self-actualization for me. And it's not necessarily about lifting a certain weight or bench pressing 2 plates or squatting 3 plates or having six packs abs or something like that. It's about the entire process, about understanding my body, respecting what my body can do. Like the moment that you're focusing on doing something like weightlifting or running or something like that, you're much more connected with your body because you're taxing it in a certain way. You're making it hard for your body. It's like sitting on the couch eating Cheetos is easier, but that doesn't mean it's like better for your body. You need that as well. It's like my episode about the polyvagal theory. You need your rest and digest, and you need your fight and flight. And the more that you push yourself in fight and flight, the better. But you have to be skillful about that. So, anyways, it's not about these goals, right? It's not that if I achieve some of these goals, it's cool to achieve these goals, like a certain body fat percentage or lean muscle mass or like weight specific things, as in like I said, benching 2 plates or squatting 3 plates or something like that, or running a marathon, whatever it is. It's not about these things. It's about the continuous pushing, and not pushing in like breaking way, pushing gently, deliberate. Challenging is maybe the word that I should have used. Challenging my body, getting to know my body better in a way that requires deliberate effort. So not like a rinse and repeat and I do the same way and I just do this thing because I know it's good for me or something like that. No, you engage with it, believe in it because it is a value for me. And these things might be completely different things. So generally, because it is self-actualization, it's more like, these lofty things that are not essential for your base survival. I do see, usually for people that are challenged with this, there are things around healthy eating. Why is it hard to eat healthy? Because society gives you so much crap to eat and it's cheaper and it's easier. How about working out consistently? Why is that hard? Because society brands it in such a way that partially makes it positive, but then makes it really hard as well. And it's uncomfortable to do something that you're not good at because it's learning. It's a lot of learning of how your body works. It's as much, this is one of the things that I love so much about working out is that as you're specifically weightlifting, it's not just that your muscles grow when you're getting strong. It's your nervous system. So it's partially just your connection, brain muscle connection being better. So you're growing nervous system, and that by itself can make you stronger. Which, and I'm not a personal trainer. I work with one because I understand it to a certain level. But I love that. That's fascinating. That's such a exploration of yourself. And it's also very fulfilling to feel these things that because a lot of the things that you do while working out, while running, while weightlifting, squatting, deadlifting, like these things, they're just simple movements. How can you do these simple movements like over and why is it that you can get so much depth in that? And the same goes for yoga, of course. Like why is that like sort of why can you do that for 20 years? And after 20 years you can still be improving your deadlift. You can still be improving your vipassana or like whatever. I was trying to think of a yoga pose on the fly, your child's pose, whatever. Well, that's not a particularly complicated one. Anyways, getting back on track. So things that I generally see that are hard because of some of the mechanisms that I've spoken about. Healthy eating, working out consistently, cultivating good sleep hygiene, increasing mindfulness, reducing social media or doom scrolling, improving skincare, stop or reducing drinking, smoking, watching pornography, increasing hours spent outside, not at work or with your kids. So they're all, I don't know, they're not primary goals. They're not like roof over your head kind of goals, right? Like you can already be a good, highly productive individual and do none of these things, right? You can easily make a six-figure income and ignore all of it, right? You can be unhealthy as fuck and make a lot of money. That's those are not at all. In fact, of course, there is some reverse correlation there because, you know, with six-figure jobs sometimes comes like the necessity of networking and drinking and these kind of things. But that's an aside. Yeah. How many highly functional alcoholics do you know? Or workaholics? Or, and do you see how they get rewarded? Can you see that some addictions don't reward you and put you in a worse position? And can you see that some of the other addictions or compulsive behaviors do reward you and, you know, keep you, they give you money or some kind of different rewards? They might be just as bad, but you get a reward from society. Isn't that great? So when we're talking about some of these goals, I feel like this is where loving the process comes in because you're not getting the benefits of riding the wave with your peers. Like some of these normie goals where society, your peers, like whatever, make it easier, make your investment lower, right? Because everybody needs a roof over their heads. So there is a mechanism for that. And the moment that it becomes really hard, there's social outrage and then blah blah blah. Things happen in our society, right? It's also you're not when you're self-actualizing, you're not getting any easy or high value rewards externally. Intrinsically, yes, but not externally. If you start playing your musical instrument, painting, podcasting, whatever it is, that's not oftentimes that's not making you money. We of course we try to combine these things as much as possible, but by and large, especially in the beginning, you're not getting there's no reward for it. In fact, oftentimes the reverse is the case. People try to discourage you from that. If you're making healthy living choices, and I talk about this in a lot of my episodes, like how does your environment react? If you suddenly start meditating or going to gym or like whatever it is for you, some friends are going to be like, hey, that's great for you, but there are also going to be lots of friends and colleagues that are like, okay, that's great for you, and you're still going to come drink tonight, right? Or to the game or like whatever, something that interferes with that, and that can be hard, right? And it's also not for these things that um, you're helped by that the process is especially pleasant or easy, like I mentioned before. For some of the more basic goals, oftentimes the process of achieving it is not necessarily that unpleasant. It's not made that unpleasant either because it's inherently just kind of like that, or it's made by that in context with your peers and society because we want people to go through this process, right? Like this. Oftentimes we see this in society. If the process is too hard, there is outrage, and we have to make the process easier. Like we make things easier all the time, right? So for your self-actualization goal, no such process optimization process exists, right? But because this is not something that we're not, as in society, we're not trying to get all of society to self-actualize. We're trying to get all of society to have a roof over their head and eat like blah blah blah, these basic things, but we're not trying to get them to the pinnacle. Like that would be impossible. Like that maybe in a future society where like that well of gravity is so high that that comes with it automatically, and you do see a difference in where in the world you grow up, right? Because there's you get much more of a chance to do some of the self-actualization in the Western world than if you're living in a poor country in Africa. Now, note, I haven't lived in a poor country in Africa, so do I know that that is true? But no, this is my Western perspective. Um, it could be completely wrong. It could be true that in poverty, there are other ways where you can self-actualize just as well because your survival needs are met quicker. Like, because you can't get a shower and like whatever. Um, there's no investment, there's no effort that's going into getting that. So you're just living like the way that the rest of the people are living. So I don't know if that necessarily works. Like I'm always trying to question myself there. But I hope that you understand the the example that I'm giving, the point that I'm trying to get across. So the three things, to just repeat that: you're not getting benefits of riding the process with your peers because they're all doing the thing. You're not getting easy or high rewards. You might even get punished. And the process of achieving your goal is not straightforward. It's not clear. It's not necessarily pleasant by itself without work. So you need a new tool in your tool belt, a tool that allows you to do the things that are important for you, because right now there's a lot of things that make it really, really hard for yourself. So I want to juxtaposition survival and self-actualization again. So again, the quote from Abraham Maslow: "What a man can be, he must be." So it's the essence of self-actualization is the drive to reach one's fullest potential. At the base, we have the survival needs like food, safety, and shelter. These are non-negotiable demand that demand attention. However, as these needs are met, the focus shifts upward towards growth, creativity, and purpose. Hallmarks of self-actualization. The transition from survival to self-actualization often require intentional effort to break free from societal expectation and prioritize personal fulfillment. It's not about abandoning the basics, but elevating beyond them to pursue what truly resonates with your values and passion. And this is from Abraham Maslow. So, gives you a little grist for the mill. It shows you that it's not just my personal anecdotal experience. It is, and there's psychologists that have dedicated their lives work on mapping that. So let's make it a little bit more personal towards me. So how do I love the process for these things? Let's recap what we've covered so far. So we explored the societal obsession with results, the importance of recognizing personal values, and how focusing on intrinsic motivation can help us stay on track. Now let's dive into actionable strategies to embrace and enjoy the journey itself. The first step for these things is you're not getting it anytime fast. With all these competing priorities, are you kidding me? They have bigger sticks, bigger carrots. Your bosses wants this from you, your dad wants this for you. No, no. There's not a goal that you're going to achieve anytime quick. I think of the quote of Bill Gates again: we overestimate what we can achieve in 6 months, we underestimate what we can achieve in 10 years. We're talking about 10-year things, right? This is not a quick thing. Like, it's not built overnight. Whether that's like physical health or skill in a certain instrument or like whatever. Yes, it might take you 10 years. That doesn't mean that you're at zero until you hit year 10 and then whoop, you're at 100. No, it's gradual. You tend to grow in, you get stuck on a plateau, but then you have growth spurts. So it's not that you have no progress, but it takes a long time, especially with all the competing priorities, because life goes on. Which is why we're focusing on the process itself being the goal in itself. Just walking the path is the goal that we get pleasure from, we get dopamine from. That's what we're trying to achieve. There is trickery involved, mental gymnastics, where you honestly switch from the goal motivation to process motivation because you believe it to be effective. That is a choice. Believing is a choice. You might say, "Oh, but I don't believe it, so screw you," and that's fine. But realize that you can engage with yourself and to see is like, okay, where does my non-belief come from? How can I change that belief? It reminds me of a friend of mine that I talk with a lot. He has 3 steps that he often talks about, which are related to the 5 noble truths. I should have researched that. I did not. But the 3 steps that he often brings into everything he does is, first of all, you have to decide, you have to decide that the goal is worth it, right? I'll talk about it more. The second is that you have to decide that you're worth the goal, right? Goal can be worthy, but if you think, oh, but I'm just like, Joe Schmo, I don't really deserve that. I should just be cleaning toilets at McDonald's. Like, you're not gonna get far, right? And then third, you have to um, believe that there is a process to get to the goal. That doesn't mean that I said believe that there is, that you can discover a path. It doesn't mean that you know the path, but you know that you're on a path of discovering the path. So it doesn't have to be straight shot. It doesn't have to be like straight to Rome. There's gonna be detours because you're learning things. And do you want to be effective in learning? Yes, yes, of course you want to do that in an effective way. But even if you're ineffectively learning, you're still going in the right direction. It doesn't really matter. But all these three things need to be true. What I find interesting about that, for all these 3 points, the moment that you say, "Oh, but I don't believe it," you're shit out of luck. There's nothing you can do. If you're just like, "Oh, I don't believe that this goal is worth it," then it's not worth it. It's very simple. And then it truly isn't worth it for you. And then your job is to figure out what your goal is that does seem worthwhile, because our self-actualization thing in peak of the pyramid, it's all different. But you have to discover for yourself, where are you going to put your dollar down? Because watch my episode about nihilism, realism, and absurdism. Like, there is nothing God given to you that says, okay, well, this is the thing that is important. I mean, you can buy into religion and then you can read the Bible and you can see, oh, well, Jesus says that I should like feed my neighbor, like whatever the shit. And then you believe that, and then you believe that goal, and then you do that goal, and then everything is fine. But it's still, you have to believe that. You have to decide that you like the Bible and that you believe what's in the, like, blah, 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 et cetera, right? So it comes down to values. Then again, watch my episode about values. So one of the things that we're here, like whenever you're in a situation where, and I often do, like these things that I'm working for myself, there, of course I have moments of doubt. Of course there's moments where I'm like, why am I doing this? Why what's the point? Why am I putting all this effort now, right now? Why am I putting all this effort in? I'm like sweating, I'm hot, I'm like have this like recording stuff set up. I could be doing something else. Could be hanging out with friends. I could be like fucking watching the game or some sports ball or whatever. Like, why this? Like, yes, you have to decide that it's worth it, right? And be okay that there's moments where that gets away from you a little bit. So, second step, or second point. The core, I think, of loving the process is to program your incentive reward system to create your own carrot and stick. See my episode about the 4 feel-good chemicals, I want to say. So, dopamine's great. Dopamine's getting like a lot of backlash these days. People are going on dopamine fasts and stuff like that. It's the stupidest fucking thing I've ever heard. Dopamine's fucking great. Cheap dopamine, you have to be careful with your cheap dopamine, right? You have to do the dopamine that you're getting from hanging out with friends, drinking, watching pornography, shopping. Yeah, scrolling on social media. I almost forgot. Yes, that reading your email, reading your text, whatever. Yes, yes. Be aware of that. But dopamine is has a very important place in your incentive reward system. What is your incentive reward system? It allows you to do things that are hard because you get little dopamine that gets you to go through with the process. So it's quintessentially required to make the process pleasurable. How do you do that? How do you do something like whatever? I already made the case that this process of doing self-actualization, it's not necessarily per definition unpleasant, but it's hard because no one is doing it. You're not getting rewarded, like all of these different things, right? So how do you do that for yourself so that you reward yourself, so that you generate dopamine, so that you get pleasure from doing this thing that you're doing every single day? instead of like when you've achieved some lofty goal in the future, right? I believe, in contrary to lots of what lots of men do, more about that later, is to make the process gentle. This process itself, doing self-actualization, is already fucking hard. The fact that you're doing it is amazing. You don't have to be harder on yourself. There's no point. Not that there's any point to be harder on yourself. I don't believe it to be effective, but like extra here. You have to, I recommend, experiment. So you want to make failure your friend. You're not going to do this first time, right? When you embark on a journey like this, at first you think that you know everything, and read the hero's journey. You're gonna like fall flat on your face. Count on it. It's not gonna be like this straight road to happiness. Count on failure. Make failure your friends. Plan for it. Attract it. Fail fast. Make sure that it's encouraging, sustainably, and also gradually, that you make it gradually harder on yourself. Um, yeah, I like that. Baby steps. Every time that I discuss a change to my routine, or I I have a goal or something like that, I talk to my nutritionist or trainer, I'm always surprised about how I am thinking as a classical caveman. I'm making these drastic big changes, right? And they tell me, cool, let's do a couple of like little micro tweaks here and there. Just like and it these this micro tweaks approach contrasts sharply with the typical all or nothing mindset, where we set extreme goals, often leading to burnout or failure. Sometimes we need extreme goals. If we're blacked out in the gutter and we keep shooting up with heroin, yes, there are moments where we have to do these extreme things, but not for self-actualization. It's not going to work, in my opinion. By focus on these small, consistent changes, you create sustainable habits. They're more likely to stick in the long run. Plus, you feed yourself. You create a situation that your incentive reward system is programmed to reward you because you're doing these little. You are checking the boxes for the micro tweaks. So instead of making this lofty goal that you then don't meet, so you don't get the dopamine of like checking a box or like feeling good about yourself. Um, yeah, let's see. So oftentimes, like, I mean, this is just an example. When it comes to some of the athletic goals, like what I go through with my nutritionist, oftentimes like, she just tells me something like, okay, well, reduce your caloric intake by 50 calories per day this week and then do 100 next week. Just see how it goes. Where I'm just like, hey, but I read this thing when Ryan Gosling was shooting Crazy Stupid Love. You need like six packs ab and stuff like that. He lived on fucking broccoli and chicken for 6 weeks, and he was like, why don't I just go live on broccoli and chicken for 6 weeks? And drastic. Well, there's many reasons why that's a stupid fucking idea. First of all, it's not the healthiest way. It's not sustainable to do that. The second part is like you're comparing, apples with oranges or whatever shit. Like for Ryan, this he was working on his acting career. This was a part of the role. This is his primary thing. For you, this is not the primary thing because you have all these other things to take care of. I'm not saying that Ryan Gosling had nothing to take care of. Of course, I don't know the man, but I hope you get the difference. Like if you're using the examples of what actors or athletes or something like that are doing, it doesn't always work the best. You're not setting yourself up for success. So I said before, especially as men like to make these drastic changes, suffer hard, wake up at 4 a.m. to work out, journal, do an ice bath, and anyways, you're just gonna fall off the wagon and do it like a couple of days, maybe a couple of weeks, and then you're gonna fail. Instead, you want to do this continuous investment. And I have more tips on making sure that you get your dopamine, one of the subsequent points. But first, the number one effective way is putting your dollar down and working with someone like a community, a program, a trainer, a nutritionist, signing up to something so you are committed. Because whatever your self-actualization is, there are other people like you that want to work on similar endeavors, whether it's painting, sculpting, writing. Like there are communities for that. The most effective way that I found for myself is actually paying for things. It's absolutely great to do free stuff, but you're communicating something to yourself if you do something that's free. If you pay for it, well, now it's real, right? And I understand that we're not all in the situation to be able to do that, but there's small ways and large ways to pay for these things. Although you can team up with people that have similar goals, just like sort of meetup style or something like that, it is not my favorite option. Unless your value is to cultivate friendships and you can bond on something like that, it's more about the community, then do that. But because in these situations you're at the mercy of someone else's motivation. So if you're attaching yourself to someone else, oh, I want to surf every day. Oh, and you kind of want to surf as well. Okay, let's make what do you call that, like a pact. We're both going to surf, and if then that person is saying, well, today I don't feel like it, or like whatever, then you're just like, oh well, I guess I'm also not going to go. So you know, I I don't like that for the reason of self-actualization is a little bit of a solitary journey, I think, because if the uh, it's already very unique that you are considering doing it. But if you have to find people that are also going to be on that, it's going to be hard to find these people and people that do it consistently, not because they're bad people and you're better. It's just because it's hard and everybody that has to do it in their same way. Let's see that the person that you're trying to surf every day with can't make it tomorrow, and then you get demotivated and you don't go tomorrow, but they could make it the day after, but now you're demotivated and you don't want to go surfing anymore. So it's not that one of the two people in this scenario is the slacker or something like that. No. Also, the goal of surfing every day is, of course, in my opinion, not a good goal. It's the same thing as working out every day. A, it's not achievable. B, it's not the best way to do it anyway. You know, um, that's beside the point. More about that later. Balancing theory and practice is also important. I've spoken about that in context of embracing failure. So you at one point just want to let go of theory, you just want to experiment. Also work with professionals. Pay for someone to do your programming if it's something that's related to nutrition or sports or something like that, just to get you out of the analysis paralysis mode. Sometimes it can be easy to just like work with someone, nutritionist that you like. Now they're your guru. They have the gospel, whatever they say you're going to do for whatever time. Maybe you do that for 6 months and then you don't like something that they do, and then you go your own way or something like that. That's fine. But following someone's dogma can be advantageous, especially if someone went to school for it. You can say, oh yeah, but working out is it's not complicated. I can read on the internet how to do it. Sure, you can, but there's a bazillion different ways to work out or to train for marathons or like whatever. So it can just be handy to choose someone or a paid program or something like that, right? I recommend avoiding a mindset of having cheat days. So this is related to the example that I gave of like surfing every day as an arbitrary example. That means if your standard is I want to surf every day, that means if you don't surf, it's going to be cheat day. I don't feel like I'm saying whatever. I am much more of a fan of making the plan realistic and making the cheat days in the plan instead of that you're cheating on the plan and having a cheat day. No, no, make the plan realistic. Realize that you can do the exact same actions with the cheat day mindset and without it. So consistency is more important than just sheer quantity, right? It's better to work out 4 times per week and do it well than to work out 8 times one week and then zero times the next week. It's obvious. So don't be too ambitious. Be ambitious enough. Also, don't, just work out once and then never ramp it up. I'm not saying that working out once is too little. No, it's a great place to start, right? Like it depends on your goals, etc., etc., etc. So there's no too low bar or something like that. Yeah. You have to work with your own personality. Like for me, it happens to be pretty easy to stick to a realistic schedule that I put enough flexibility in, right? So I don't really have to create punishments or like whatever. If I make a plan, I'm just like generally going to follow the plan because I like following a plan. Gets me dopamine because I generally have the plan on like some kind of app, and that means I do it, and then I get like a check off an activity, and I get a little celebration emoji or something like that. Gets me a little dopamine. That's all required. But I then worked an hour for that dopamine, which is great. That's how you, you want dopamine to work. And now I never go to the gym, not wanting to go to the gym or something like that. So I think it's important to give yourself as much grace as possible so you stick with the program. You always want to feel you're in the program. You don't want to fall off the wagon, right? It's similar. Look, if you watch my episode on addiction, this mindset of you don't want to be perfect. You want to focus on harm reduction. In this case, it's not harm reduction. It's actually like going somewhere positive, but it's the same mindset. You want to not fall off the wagon. You just want it to be easy to stay on the wagon, even if it's not ideal. It doesn't have to be perfect. If the perfect thing for where you are in the shape you are is working out 6 times a week, that would be the ideal. Who cares if you do it 4 times a week? Does it mean that you're not going to achieve your goals? Like you probably are. Like sometimes there are things like marathon training. You just have to. There are certain table stakes, right? Like you have to invest this many hours per week, otherwise you don't get there, depending on your time goals, right? So it depends. I also recommend keeping, I already covered this a little bit, some kind of visual checklist where you can track and reward your progress, such as using tools like Trello, Habitica, or even a simple whiteboard or journal. I'm a fan of like having, things just out there in your living space. So that, it hits you all the time, not specifically an app, but apps can be really handy as well. I travel a lot, so then an app can be good. Journaling, also great, just a free form way of doing it. You still make it easier to celebrate these micro steps and keep the motivation high. Like keep your expensive dopamine flowing. I recommend in general, but here as well, to committing to an increased mindfulness awareness. Meditation, journaling, gratitude practice. As you're solidifying your practices on self-actualization, you're cultivating your expensive dopamine, as I call it, instead of harvesting the cheap dopamine from sources such as shopping, social media, pornography, and substances. Remember, like you can get those instant. You can get that dopamine dip instant. You don't have to do anything for it. And now I'm telling you to make like this program where I have to work out an hour for me to get that dopamine. Well, you're making your dopamine expensive. You're making it valuable. That's good. That's actually a good thing. It's essential to be aware of that and have daily gratitude for that. Like if you're not aware of that, if you're not seeing that, that is problematic. I recommend affirmations as well. Have you heard public speakers, motivational speakers talking about this is what we do now? Like, I mean, I make a little bit of fun of motivational speakers because there are women motivational speakers, but generally the men motivational speakers, they tend to be like really like alpha about the 3 a.m. working up, I'm the best in the world, whatever. And that is true. And maybe that doesn't work for you, and that's fine. But I do like the concept of in whatever tone, whatever mindset, whenever you want to like pretend you're in beast mode or whatever works for you. But to have an affirmation to help you arrest any slipping back into comfort. I find it very useful here when, as you're, because doing self actualization is oftentimes you're creating new habits. So if you're starting to slip back into an old habit, it can be good to have a couple of affirmations that you like. And as it is with an affirmation, it is best spoken out loud so that you can tell yourself that you mean. On that topic, I do recommend listening to public speakers if you need some motivation. So motivational speakers. I have that in my practices quite a bit when I just need a boost. Like the great thing about motivational speakers is they generally speak, it's very generic. They're not telling you to do your exact thing, but they're telling you to chase after your goals. They give you a kick in the pants that, especially if I think about, okay, I could be scrolling on Instagram right now, feeling bad about like what I'm seeing there, like because people are doing something better than me, or like I'm missing out, or like whatever. Or I could be listening to someone who's giving me the motivation to do things. I get a meta motivation from that because I know that that practice is going to work so much better for me. Just compare watching depressing news versus listening to motivational speakers, and just think what the difference in result would be. Like for me, it's a no-brainer that the result of someone who's listening to motivational speakers is going to be much more. So thank God for motivational speakers. It's all, you can find them everywhere, Spotify, YouTube. You can watch it for free. I also recommend sharing these goals carefully. Show your actions, not your words. Don't tell tall stories that then demotivate you because your ass can't cash the check that your mouth work. Like, tell people what you've done, not what you're gonna do. Tell them when it's done. Do it alone, without your normie friends. That's the self-actualization journey is a solitary one. You can find friends that walk that path with you. But I think, in my opinion, my perspective is that the essence of self actualization is that it's so personal that it's about you. It's just about you. Does that mean you can get inspiration from people? All these things are possible, but like your self actualization path is your self actualization path. It's not going to be the same as your body's. It's not going to be, it's different. It is different. It's unique. It's personal. Maybe this is too much of the American in me. Like, for those of you who don't know, I am originally from the Netherlands, but I've been living in the United States for 10 years now. Of course, what we know about the United States, people are much more individualistic. So whenever I hear myself, really ranting about individualism, I'm like, huh, what who would I be yelling this from the rooftops if I would have would have kept living in the Netherlands. I don't know, but this is the message that you get now from this version of me, to be prepared to do it alone. So often these goals change something that's already part of yourself and is accepted, even desired by your environment. So prepare to say no to some things from a perspective of excitement for working on your goal versus being bummed out that you can't do your X or Y, like hanging out with friends or something like that. Be prepared, cope ahead. If you remember that DBT episode where I talked about, God, I don't know which DBT episode it is, but there is a coping ahead skill in DBT that allows that basically tells you is to imagine a situation that you're going to be in very, very much detail, and then imagine yourself saying no to something that is a hard situation, where just like maybe it's your mother that asks you to do her paperwork, but we want to be working on this thing, and then you're going to like break a trend by saying no, I'm not going to do that. Ask my uncle or something like that. So that can be really advantageous, because otherwise you're going to find yourself being like, okay, fine, I'll do it. And if that happens once or twice, that's fine. But one of the things in creating time to work on your own path is breaking with some of these things. All right. I think that I've covered a lot of important material here. I do want to quickly go back and summarize what I've spoken about, like some of the highlights that I think are the essences of this episode. So what I've talked about is that as you're climbing the pyramid of needs, pyramid of needs, you're going to, instead of being accelerated by society's gravity well, you're going to be decelerated by society's gravity well. By getting a roof over your head, society is going to help you. For self-actualization, society is going to deter you. Society is going to pull you back. Oh, no, why don't you stop self-actualizing? Just, work a little bit more so you can get a bigger car. There's not, it's, society has no specific benefit right now in this stage of history that we're in to motivate you to do that. So that means that your current mechanisms of getting things done might not suffice. Suddenly, getting these things done is harder. Why? Because you can't follow your peers anymore, because your peers are just doing normie stuff. You're not getting easy, juicy rewards quickly because it's a very personal journey. There's no one that directly benefits from it from you, so you have to give you the rewards instead of someone else giving you money. And the process is less clear, less pleasurable, less, you know, manicured than some of these other processes for goal achievement that you're doing. Like, for example, if you're going to get a university degree, the process is manicured, and it's like someone else is making sure that it's not too hard, not too easy, like whatever. And because now in this situation, the process is, the three things that I just, and because of that, it is now more important to cultivate, to plan, to create a process for yourself that you manicure yourself. You prepare very carefully. And I've shared a number of different steps on how to do that. And then finally, we went through a number of steps to make manicuring that process that I just talked about for yourself in such a way that you're actually going to achieve it. Even though it's harder, even though it's going to take longer, even though. So I hope that this will help you get some of these things done, also inspire you to do it in the first place. I think some of the tips I've given, the tips are good, but the mindset behind it, or the vision behind it, is embarking on this journey to begin with. I hope that you can hear in my voice, in my tone of voice, in my body language, how enthused I am about how that is for me, and how I hope to inspire others to go through the process of like sifting through their beliefs, sifting through their values, making sure that all the base necessities in their pyramid of needs are addressed, and then be able to embark and, yeah, spend some time doing good self-actualization, and how much, joy and contentment in life that's going to bring. All right. So grossly over time, but I hope that this was as enjoyable to you as it was to me. I will catch you next time. This has been Vincent for The Meaningful Shit Show.